Oregon head coach Dan Lanning does not agree with Fox Sports 1's Skip Bayless.
There's been a lot of talk nationally about your pregame speech and your aggressive play calling. I think Skip Bayless called it venomous vengeance. Just curious what your thoughts are on that and kind of how your words have been skewed a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know Skip at all. I've never had a conversation with him. I've watched him enough to know how often he gets it wrong. So, I mean, that sounds about right.
Well, damn, Dan Lanning. Respect your elders, not in the pond, apparently. Here's the quote from Bayless, the reporter cited.
There is a deep-rooted sort of a venomous vengeance that is starting to manifest itself against Deion among white coaches, and I'm not going to say they're all white because we saw what Jay Norvell did just 2 weeks ago, right?
You're right.
Okay?
You're right.
It's deep-rooted and seated because Deion didn't pay any dues that they all had to pay.
There is some truth to this. The issue was the framing of the question was not all there. Lanning would then address the clip that made the rounds with the eye-opening line of, they, as in CU, are playing for clicks and we're playing for wins.
They felt a certain way about a group stomping on the O. They felt a certain way about guys talking to him in the pregame. And I'm proud of those guys because what they decided to do is talk with their pads.
After that, in the very next sentence, Lanning said this.
I'm also grateful and can clearly acknowledge that the attention that we got this Saturday, in large part, was due to Deion and what he's doing to college football. And if anybody can't see what he's done for college football and how he's bringing excitement to college football, you're crazy.
Lastly, Lanning would have one more shot for Skip Bayless.
You know, that to me is classless. What he's saying there, but I'm not really worried about it.
A few points to address. First, do not come at me and tell me you're fighting for wins and CU Boulder is, quote, fighting for clicks when after the affair, the Oregon Ducks put out a hype video for, well, attention, clicks, media, making the rounds, sharing, posting on TikTok. Folks saying, oh, did you see what Oregon did to fire back at Deion and Boulder? Let's keep it a buck. What they're doing in that instance is also fighting for clicks. Social media has proven that every single entity, whether it is a college football program all the way to the Korean baseball league, they are fighting for clicks. Every entity, even outside of sports, are fighting for clicks. It was a cool line, I'm not going to lie, but it's also factually untrue. Second, Lanning gave praise to Deion, which is warranted. Per longtime college football media member Stuart Mandel, Colorado, Oregon averaged 10 million viewers. Higher than what? Ohio State, Notre Dame on Nielsen, though NBC itself announced a higher number. Some would even say that the Nielsen ratings don't take into account those that were watching on Peacock, which I suppose is a fair question. But then I would also argue maybe the Nielsen ratings don't factor in those watching on the Fox Sports Go app. Third, Deion would praise Lanning, saying, I respect the heck out of this man and what he's accomplished, stepping in and taking over and keeping it not only rocking steady, but accelerating it. I respect the heck out of him. I love what he's accomplishing. I love who he is and the way he runs his team. I love the way he operates. I have a lot of respect for him, as do many now. There is no doubt of the Deion effect on college football. There is no doubt the Deion effect of football overall. If people are going to start talking ball in 2023, Deion's name is coming up. And I know Dan Lebitard and company at Meadowlark have a whiteboard that's like days without talking about Deion, and it always hits 0. It's fine. It's fine. It's sort of like what Danny Kanell said yesterday when he made an absolute ass of himself and Robert Griffin III dunked all over him, which was him crapping on Deion when really, as Jason Fitz also alluded to, and we covered this previously, check it out on our channel, was we all in the media understand the clicks game per se, and Deion is owning the moment. I guarantee you a lot of people who say that they are college football fans but really came about because of Deion, or they had a recession and came back, they couldn't name you the top 10. They couldn't name you the top 5, but they'll tell you about Deion. That's the Deion effect. It's a good thing for sports. It's a good thing for college sports to be talked about like this. Meanwhile, it doesn't get easier for Boulder. They face off against Caleb Williams, who could easily go to the Chicago Bears if the Bears continue just tanking the season, even though they have Justin Fields. Another clip for another day. They take on USC. For Oregon, they go to Stanford. I'll end with this. Skip Bayless' first point about him saying there's deep-rooted venomous vengeance that is starting to manifest itself against Deion Sanders among white coaches, and then he would very quickly backtrack and say, well, it's Jay Norvell as well. It's not just white coaches. Deep-rooted and seated because Deion didn't pay any dues that they all had to pay. 2 quick thoughts. First, there are former NBA players who immediately get coaching gigs in college or the pros and leapfrog other guys who put in the time. Sadly, for many, that is the nature of the business. Not saying it's right, but that goes across the entire spectrum of sports. Second, I wouldn't say it's the coach's reaction. I would say it's the fan reaction to what we're seeing from Deion putting Boulder on the map, putting Jackson State on the map, shining a light at the lack of resources within the HBCU programs, football programs, track programs. I'm not just even limiting it to what goes on the gridiron. It feels like the reason so many, and we've covered this as well, hate Deion is because of who he is, how he carries himself, and what he stands for. It is deep-rooted. It's also somewhat racist. And we acknowledge that. We see that. We have seen and I've even gotten them, where they've used the N-word in tweets to meme, because that's what Elon Musk wants on his platform, of course, to meme Deion's head on a Colorado Buffalo and saying the N-word allows. That's the kind of stuff we're seeing. Why? Because he's unapologetically himself.
He's simply the greatest athlete who ever played, and he has shattered the mold, as we have talked about, because that's who he is. He is one of the greatest talkers in the history of sports. He is as entertaining an interview as there is in all of sports as we speak. He is playing to his strengths. He is in the midst of the greatest turnaround in college football history, doing it his way.